Ideas are easy. It's the execution of ideas that really separates the sheep from the goats. Sue Grafton.
Welcome to the Applying Awareness Podcast. I'm your host, Adam French. In the Applying Awareness Podcast, I want to take you on a journey of cultivating awareness of self and the world around us, and apply that awareness to make our lives more purposeful and more fulfilling. It's really about examining the cause and effect we see in our own internal stories, as well as the larger collective story of our society, and using our knowledge and awareness of these cause and effects and factors at play to become better people, citizens, and forces for positive good. In episode 14, Supercharging Your Ideas, I made this episode for the people who have a lot of good ideas but don't actually know what to do with them and execute on them. And I have this problem all the time. But in my journey, I've learned that certain steps can bring you closer to making your idea happen without a whole lot of intensive effort. And this episode is for the ideators, creators, and the crazy people who think that their ideas and their creations of the mind can make a lasting difference in this world. And I'm not talking about just business ideas. I'm talking about thought frameworks, lifestyle ideas, products, scientific theories, anything that is original and that can be applied to the world we live in and change people's lives. Throughout the episode, I'm going to use the idea I'm currently marinating on, which is a social platform for regenerative agriculture organizations to connect with consumers by organizing and promoting events, answering questions, and spreading knowledge. I'm going to use that idea as a sort of case study, an example. I'm going to walk you through what I've done so far to try to spread that idea and make it grow. I've been working with ideas and working with product ideas for a little while. And more importantly, I've been around people who are executing on their ideas and actually making it happen. For example, Jeremy Chevalier, we remember him from episode 3, Political Awareness. Check that out if you haven't already. He is making a platform called Wikiprops, and I'm working with him to help that idea come to life. And Anastasios from episode 2, he is currently executing on a gift card exchange platform that's like Venmo for gift cards, and they're really making these things happen. So I'm going to share a little bit of what I've observed and how I've integrated it into making my own idea come to life, and how you guys can integrate it into making your ideas come to life. So before I start, remember this. If you get anything out of this episode, remember this. Ideas come easy, and anyone can have ideas. But as Sue Grafton so eloquently stated, execution is the thing that separates the sheep from the goats. And those are the people that win and change the world. And so in this episode, I'm going to talk about how to execute. So get ready to supercharge your ideas. Let's get started. What is up, everybody? Merry Christmas, by the way, because I am recording this on Christmas Day, and if I sound different, that's because I got a new mic for Christmas. So shout out my mom and dad for getting me that new mic. I really appreciate you for supporting my passions, and I urge everybody listening to find people who support their passions, because it makes life a lot better and easier. So I appreciate my privilege, for having parents that support me like that, because I know not everyone has that. But everyone does have the ability to find people who do support them. So find those people
All right. So it's time to supercharge your idea. You have an idea. Oh, that's amazing. This amazing idea you have of looking at technology or a business idea that can solve global warming. What do you do? What do you do right at that moment when you get that idea to supercharge it? So first step you take, write it down. Write it down. Write it down. Record it or something. As soon as it leaps into your head, try to get it out of your head onto a medium where you can go back and reference it. And write as much as you can. Try to elaborate on your idea. So I had this, this idea that I'm using as a case study. I was like, a social platform, like a centralized social platform for, regenerative agriculture and people to interact with that space. That would be really cool. And it just started with that initial idea because I was like, oh man, the landscape's so fragmented, they need a centralized platform. Boom, that idea hit me. I was like, write it down. What is it going to have? Okay, it's going to have this Q&A section where people can ask farmers about what they do and how they make it happen. And farmers can ask each other about the best methods to plant in different regions. What else is it going to have? Oh, events. Let's get the community involved and in person with each other, interacting. Let's make that happen. That's the second thing. And I just kept ideating features, and writing it down was this great way of getting it all down before they escaped my head, because your brain isn't great at remembering everything. Even if you try to remember it, every time you don't write an idea down, it fades, and every time you bring it back up, it requires that much more brain power in just bringing back up the idea. You can't add to the idea. And you can't refine it if it's not written down and it's just staying in the abyss of your brain. So first thing to do is write it down, and write down as many details as humanly possible until you're stumped. And then write down some more. So another thing I like to do right after I have an idea is tell people about it. I mean, it's pretty simple, right? But a lot of people are like, ooh, I want to keep it secret. And then when I launch it, it'll go huge. And people will be like, wow, this came out of nowhere. No. That, overnight successes, they don't happen overnight. Like Facebook, Zuckerberg spent a while in his dorm room coding this stuff. He spent a while gathering beta testers and people who were going to use the platform from the beginning. So start telling friends, start telling family. Be like, hey, I thought of this idea. Check it out. And, see what their reaction is. Maybe write down their reaction. And try to learn from their reaction. Try to iterate your idea based off their reaction. From the very beginning, say, okay, how do people react to this? How can I make it better so I get a better reaction? Always that iterative process, stay flexible from the very beginning. So people's reactions, especially if they're just your friends and family, and like for me, I mean, my dad's reaction to my idea of a social platform for regenerative agriculture, telling him, I was like, I'm really paying attention now because he does that. I'm making this platform for people like him who want to educate people, who want to spread their organizations. Make sure to tell people as soon as possible, right after you write it down. And maybe that's how you write it down, by telling someone while you write it down. You know what I'm saying? Like, this isn't a silver bullet. You do it your own way. If you really learn and improve your ideas through talking to someone more than writing it down, then by all means, do that first. But figure out what makes your ideas blossom. And those are two things that really have helped me. And they've helped my friends, Tazo talks to every restaurant owner, Anastasios, sorry. Tazo is his nickname, so I'll just use that because Anastasios is a bit of a mouthful. Anastasios talks to every single restaurant owner he sees about this gift card idea to see what their reaction is and to see how he can learn from their reaction and refine his pitch. So be working on that pitch from day one. And you do that by talking to people. So you've written down the main details or the main features, and you talked to a few people about it. What's next? So this is where it starts to get a little bit more nitty gritty. This is where the grind comes in. So after you get all the details down and you're like, here's this amazing solution, you want to drill down on the problem you are solving. So the problem I'm solving, for an example, is the lack of marketing and general social media and online expertise in the regenerative agriculture space. And the presence of regenerative agriculture on social media is a niche, and it's not mainstream, and it's fragmented. You know, there are little pages everywhere, like my dad's organization, he doesn't own it, but he's a part of it, Salt Lake Permaculture Guild. They have a Facebook page, but you look for them around the internet, they don't really have much else. And not all the regenerative agriculture organizations in Salt Lake have Facebook pages, you know? So it's a very fragmented space. And I just learned this through observation, because I was talking to people in that space. I was, you know, in my subconscious, I was analyzing, like, why is this happening? Why isn't regenerative agriculture huge? And it's because, you know, they don't really care about marketing. They don't really care about marketing. Well, you look at these huge food corporations, their marketing budget is 50 million times the amount of money I get a year. You know what I'm saying? So those guys are really focused on marketing. Regenerative agriculture people, that's not really their focus. Yeah, they want to spread knowledge. Of course they want to expand, but that's not their focus. Based on this, I said, I want a platform that solves this problem. So after you get down your idea and you fall in love with your idea, it's time to really take that first step in seriously questioning your idea by examining the problem. So, what is the problem your idea solves? Why does it need to be solved? And these questions are the ones you want to answer in this step. Because if you don't know the problem inside and out, like the front and back of your hand, then you're not going to build the right product. People aren't going to see as much value in your idea as you do. So the reason Anastasios is going to be successful with Gifter, and I know he's going to be successful because he knows the problem space like the back of his hand, the restaurant industry. I don't know if you heard episode 2, check it out if you haven't, but he's been in the restaurant industry for like 10, 15 years. So he knows exactly what problems they have around gift cards. So he was able to build a solution that from a restaurateur perspective addressed that problem perfectly. So now all the restaurateurs are going to be like, hey, I want that. That solves exactly what my problem is. And that's the power of looking and zooming into the problem. That really is the foundational fuel for the supercharging of your idea, is depth of knowledge in the problem space. This is what a lot of entrepreneurs get wrong, people. They're like, man, I have this amazing idea. I love ideas. I'm so amazing. Look at these solutions. And wait, there's not a problem. Like you want to build the next Tinder. We don't need another Tinder. Like, that's a cool idea, bro. But we don't have a problem with, finding single people in our area to bone. Like, that's not a problem anymore. So don't be trying to make the next Tinder. And that's what happens when you fall in love with a solution. You can get blinded to what are the other solutions in this problem space, in conjunction with researching the problem. And what does this look like? When I research a problem, I literally just Google it, problems in regenerative agriculture marketing or something like that, and I read everything and I make a Google Doc or something and I write down what are the different facets of this problem. So for me, the thing I'm trying to solve is marketing for regenerative and sustainable agricultural operations. But the deeper problem, the reason I want to solve that problem is because our agricultural practices are destroying the planet, right? So there are layers of depth to this knowledge of the problem. And you have to figure out okay, so I'm making this, this social media thing. And it's for this surface level issue, this marketing issue. But the reason I want to solve the marketing issue is because, we need to spread this regenerative agriculture practice if we want our planet to survive. So find the deeper problem. Dig. Say why. You find something, you write it down. All right, why is this? Find something, write it down. Why is this? Keep going deeper into your levels of why until you come to the essence of the problem you're trying to solve. So hopefully that helps you understand what it really means to dig into a problem and to research a problem and to find the essence of it. The next part, after you look at your problem and while you're looking at your problem and finding the different levels of reasons why it's an issue, you're going to come across possible competitors or people who have already come up with your idea. I can't stress this enough. Don't run away from them because you're like, oh, well, they look kind of like me, but I'm just going to ignore them because mine's better. No, don't do that. Look at them, painstakingly inspect what they are doing. How is it like your idea? How is it not like your idea? Why is it better than your idea? Why is it worse than your idea? What problems is it solving? How is it solving those problems? How are they marketing themselves? Who are they marketing themselves to? Take note of all of these things because this is huge. You have an opportunity by looking at similar ideas to your own. And when I say marketing, I'm not talking about just a product. You can market any idea. A scientific theory that requires marketing, that requires getting people on board. And people assume marketing is like tricking people into buying something. No, it's giving your idea or your thing exposure. So figure out how similar solutions or similar ideas are gaining exposure, where they're gaining exposure from, and how they're solving the problem, guys, because that is a chance to copy and paste the things they did right and then fix the things they did wrong. And all of a sudden, you're 50% of the way there with your market, your target market, with your marketing techniques. You have that all laid out for you because, this person who's trying to solve the same problem did it for you. And you just know that your idea can do it better. So for me, this looked like Eventbrite because I want a big part of my social platform. I want to call it Community Grow. For my platform, since I really want the community and farmers and organizations have these regenerative agriculture centered events with the community and get the community involved, I'm looking at Eventbrite to see how events are scheduled and how you can set that up and how it works to have an event scheduling and execution platform. And in looking into Eventbrite, I realized, hey, they have an API. They have all this code that I can use in my platform to allow people to schedule events using basically all of Eventbrite's code. And I can build the event part of this platform with Eventbrite and just integrate it into my product. And this was huge. I was like, I don't have to build out a whole event scheduling platform. That's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of lines of code of design that I don't have to do because I looked into people solving the idea. So that is a really big way to supercharge your ideas by stealing people's similar ideas and how they executed on them. Because remember, this is all about execution. I want to lead you on a path to execution. And what is faster than a shortcut by stealing other people's ideas that already executed on it? All right? So that comes into this point. Research. All of the steps I previously was talking about, looking at the problem, looking at your competitors. This is all foundational research. And that is what gives your idea the springboard for it to go viral, for it to blow up, and for people to love it. If you don't have that foundation, it's all blind luck, basically. But if you do have that foundation, it's still a little bit of luck, but it's a lot of, preparation and planning. In this preparation and planning, you don't have to do it. Like, yeah, you want to be the first to market, but you also want to prepare to scale and prepare to get to the point where people want your product or idea or your solution. So that preparation is done through foundational research. And that's basically like writing down a business plan. And those are the steps to get there, the ones that I just outlined. Get really in love with your problem and get in bed with your problem. Really check it out up close, Organize this research by categories. Say, what's our go-to-market strategy? All right, let's write a few paragraphs about this. Let's link to a few people who had a really good go-to-market strategy. All right, what's our problem domain? What problem are we trying to solve? Who's already solving it? Have paragraphs on each of these bullet points. And after you've done this foundational research, and during your foundational research, but you want to have a little bit of it done, in my experience, so you know the right questions to ask. Start interviewing experts in the problem domain. Present your idea to them, and their reaction will give you great feedback on whether your idea is worth a damn. So after you've done all this foundational research and you talk to your friends about it, you've talked to maybe friends who know a little bit about what you're trying to solve. After you've done that and you have a really solid, okay, yeah, I think this can work because I've done my research. There's no ideas quite like it, or the ideas like it, I can do much better than. After you do all that and you kind of have this foundation for success, start talking to experts. Start reaching out to people who, for me, I'm reaching out to regenerative agriculture evangelists, people who are trying to spread the gospel of regenerative agriculture, because at the end of the day, that's the problem I'm trying to solve. I'm trying to get this mainstream. So I'm reaching out to people who are making it mainstream and who are already executing on their, ways of making it mainstream. And I do this in terms of specific methodology. I do this by literally going on LinkedIn and typing in regenerative agriculture into the search bar and connecting with the people who pop up and sending them the message saying, hey, I'm Adam, here's what I'm doing. I'd love to chat with you about how you're doing this currently. So get a template. So my outreach, I have an outreach template, and I have one for LinkedIn. That's my main platform that I use because people are willing to make professional connections, and they, they're likely to respond to things that are close to their passions. So consider using LinkedIn as a place to reach out to experts in your problem domain. And you can't really, have this template and make it compelling if you haven't done your foundational research. So this is why I say do some foundational research before you start reaching out to experts, because if you know your shit, they're more likely to answer you and want to help you. So my little template is really simple. I'm Adam French, an ASU student and regenerative agriculture enthusiast. My life goal is to make regenerative agriculture the norm through education and knowledge sharing platforms. I'd love to connect and chat about how you engage with the local regenerative agriculture community. So really simple, it's like, hey, let's talk about what you do, because I like doing the same things. And if you fall in love with your problem and instead of the solution, people will sense this through your reach outs. And then I have after we connect over LinkedIn, I have another template. It's like, thanks for accepting my invitation. Would you like to chat for 30 minutes about the details, in terms of interacting with the community and giving farmers, marketing tools. That's the way I like to talk to experts, is through LinkedIn. Maybe I also go to Arizona State, so I sometimes email teachers who are studying, the problem domain that I want to solve. And that expertise is really useful in getting real, concrete proof that this could actually work and there is a need for my idea and there is a way to implement it because this expert is implementing it this way. And you can piggyback off that or you can iterate on that. Talking to experts gives you a lot of rich information, knowledge, and a network to tap into when you struggle at points during the progression of your idea. And when you talk to experts in this foundational stage, it presents a really unique opportunity. And that is to build a cult around your idea. Now I want to shout out Professor Aram Chavez for the cult. And what the cult is basically a core group of experts who love your idea and the problem you're trying to solve, but at the same time are smart enough and discerning enough to pick your idea apart where it's weak and to say, oh, it's not quite right here. How about doing this? Oh, it's not quite right here. How about doing this instead? So for me, this would look like when I go to an expert and say, oh, I'm doing, question and answer and event planning. I talked to this guy, Nick Greens, who I hope I'm going to have him on the show. We scheduled it, but it fell through because we both had a lot going on. So hopefully I can get my man Nick on. He's a marketing expert and he's a regenerative agriculture expert and enthusiast as well. And he was like, you should build your platform around live streaming because I've done all this research and I found that live streaming is the stuff that gets people's attention. It has a higher search engine optimization. It ranks higher in search engines. It's more discoverable. It's more marketable. And that piece of advice really changed how I look at this idea. It really changed my vision for the implementation of this idea because I know Nick has done the research for himself and he's dug in the depths of this aspect of the problem I'm trying to solve. So I can then shortcut on the iteration of my idea and say, all right, well, Nick knows that live streaming is a big thing and I trust Nick because he's been doing this for 15, 20 years. So that, again, gives you shortcuts so you don't have to test things needlessly. And testing is great. Testing your idea, that's what you're doing by presenting it to experts. But when they give you these shortcuts, this is what talking to experts does, And going back to the cult, they're going to be able to pick apart your idea and they're going to be able to be the first users of your idea. You can implement your idea by tapping the people you used for research. And you can say, hey, remember that idea we talked about? It's out. Try out the beta. And I'm sure they're going to try out the beta because if you're enthusiastic about your idea and the problem you're trying to solve, they're going to be attracted to that and they're going to want to help you. So let that enthusiasm show when talking to these experts and they're going to be your first customers. You already have your first customers when you're still researching, the idea basically. And that's a super powerful thing because now they're experts, they're influencers in their own right. So they spread your idea instead of you having to spread your idea and build your credibility from scratch because now all of a sudden you have experts behind you who everyone trusts and you trust. So that's one of the biggest shortcuts and one of the biggest superchargers that you can put onto your idea is the opinion of experts and interviews with experts. Right now, all I'm doing for my idea is setting up interviews with experts to present them the idea and see what they say and see how they might want to help or see how they're doing it already. I think that's going to get me a lot further than building something in isolation and then trying to just present it to the world and make it happen. I think talking to experts and making it as you talk to experts, as you're iterating on your idea, now the picture starts to become a little more clear. Out of everything I've gone over so far, getting that foundational research is huge, but talking to experts after you really know what's going on with your problem and your idea, that's the biggest thing you can do to shortcut the spread of your idea. So, you talk to experts. You have refined your idea. You think you have something that will really impact people and that people will really want to do. Now you build. Iterate, make that most minimum viable product. Everyone talks about this minimum viable product. What is it? Well, it's the essential solution that your idea presents without any bullshit. What are this is a very good exercise and strategy in prioritizing ruthlessly. Take, from what those experts said, take what makes sense, take the features that make sense of your idea. Release that, see what people say about it, and then change it, and then add features to address the issues people are having. So with my idea, I haven't gotten to this point, so it's going to be a little less clear. But what it looks like is after I talk to 10, 20 experts, and I'm like, okay, this idea is definitely worth pursuing. It has a very grounded foundation in truth and reality, and it's going to have a market. Once I get to that point, I'm making prototypes. I'm probably doing a little bit of the front end code and having an app for consumers and a small dashboard for organizations. And I'm going to the experts that I have interviewed and organizations I know, like Bambox. Bambox is an urban farm in Tempe, by the way. Make great salads. If you're in the Phoenix area, check out bamboxproduce.com. And first week is free when you use the code 2, like the number 2, aware. So use that code, get a week of free salads if you're in the Phoenix area. Anyways, I'm going to go to Bambox and say, all right, here's this prototype for a marketing platform and a platform to interact with your customers. What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? And they're going to tell me, well, I don't understand why this is here. I don't know why this design is here. I don't know why I don't like this color. They're going to pick it apart. They're going to give you details. Go through a few cycles of that. Go to organizations with your prototype. Say, hey, how do you like this? And they're going to give you the feedback. And with that feedback, go make your idea better. And when you go to organizations, you're like, this is awesome. That's when you launch. That's when you build it out. It's a long process. It's a really long process. There's a lot of research. There's a lot of foundational stuff that goes into a great idea and supercharging an idea. But that's the whole point of supercharging. It's by doing these things like talking to experts and doing the foundational research first so that you can then take shortcuts, You can't take the shortcuts without doing the foundational stuff. And sometimes the shortcuts are the foundational stuff at the end of the day, because if you don't do, let's say, the research on your competitors and you launch and now you're struggling to figure out who do I market to and how do I reach my market? Well, if you researched what similar ideas are doing, then maybe you would find those answers before you even launch. You see what I'm saying? So your foundation and the things that make you say, oh, but I just want to build it already. Hey, if you want to build a prototype, go for it. Build a prototype as early as you feel comfortable building a prototype and investing that time, because it takes a little while, especially if you're doing it by yourself. So to kind of wrap it up here, supercharging strategies. These are mindsets with which you conduct all the things I talked about. So the foundational research, talking to experts, prototyping and whatnot, making an MVP. Here are the strategies that I have found are very useful. And and that my friends have used and told me they use when iterating on ideas and making them better. So first of all, stay flexible with your idea. And if you come across evidence, opinions, and realities that make you rethink your idea, don't hesitate to tweak it and reframe it. And this willingness to stay flexible is really what underlies all this foundational stuff. Because if you're going to do all this foundational stuff and not change your idea at all, even if you're presented with contrasting evidence and realities and expert opinions, then all that foundational research is basically, pointless. It's wasted. And if you don't act on it, then, your idea is probably going to be a dud, to be honest. So stay flexible. Don't hesitate to change your idea, but only when faced with the reality. Don't change it just because you can change it. Change it based on hard evidence, either from an interview or something you read or, something that makes you say, oh, okay, my perception of the reality of this problem has changed. 2, stay consistent with your efforts. A lot of people put 20 hours a week with a full-time job into their idea and they get all burnt out before they can launch. That's not how I do it. That's not how my friends do it. They just stay plugging. Tazo, I go out for coffee and he has a while to go out for coffee and he's not busy all the time, but he stays every day. He does something to move his business forward and to move his idea forward. So I'm only putting in 2 to 5 hours into my idea. But if you take that step every day, reach out to 5 more experts, write down 4 more paragraphs of foundational research, organize your research systems and processes, create a template. Little things like that, if you do one of those little things every day, 1 to, or 10 of those little things one day, 1 the next, 2 the next, at least 1 a day, you're going to look back after 2 months and be like, wow, I'm so much further than when I started, but I've only been doing 2 to 5 hours a week. It's I'm barely even focusing on it, but I've made all this progress. And that's what consistency does. It gets you way ahead without even noticing it. It's a magic almost. So put that effort in every day. If you have an idea that you're passionate about, that you want to make happen, make sure you're not doing okay, so I'll do 5 hours this one day and then not do it the rest of the week. I mean, I guess if you're going to do that every week, but it's just more effective. It's more flexible if you do a little bit every day, because then you can wait for people to respond to you and set up interviews. And, it's just a lot more flexible if you do it a little bit every day. So keep that in mind. And the third is immerse yourself. Everything social media, the stuff you read, make it around your problem. This is part of your research, but just make what you're surrounded by. Surround yourself with people who are excited about it. Surround yourself with people who are going to push you. And that's online and offline. You can follow a bunch of people on LinkedIn, follow a bunch of people on Twitter that share the enthusiasm for this idea or problem. So that's the third one. Immerse yourself. Engage with your problem and people trying to solve your idea. And this will be a very good passive way of increasing your depth of knowledge. Okay, so to wrap it up, I want to ask you guys a question. And I'll be posting this out on all my social media. Please respond, check it out. I love interacting with y'all on social media. It really makes this more real to me. And it makes it real that I'm influencing people and getting them to think and interacting with people. Guys, I really like talking to you, just not at you. Not just at you. I like talking with you. So on social media, I'm going to post these questions. You can check it out by searching Applying Awareness in LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook. Applying Awareness Podcast, and my profile should pop right up. So how do you execute on your ideas? And what has worked well for you in the past? Simple. You guys, I bet if you're listening to this podcast, you're full of ideas on how to change the world. How have you executed on them? and what's worked well and what's not worked well. Have you had ideas running around your mind and not known how to execute on them? Tell me what that's like. Tell me what your process is like. And tell me if I'm missing anything, or if you're missing anything that I gave to you in this episode. I want to hear about your process of executing on your ideas. I want to hear about your ideas. I want to help you make them reality. So if you have an idea that you've been working on or you wanted to work on, reach out to me about it. And I'll help you make it happen. I promise you. Like I'm not just saying this and then gonna ignore your message if you say, hey, I listened to your episode and I have this idea, like let's make it happen. I will try my best to connect you with the right people. I know a lot of entrepreneurs down here in Phoenix. So reach out to me. Let's make your idea happen.
That wraps it up for this episode of the Applying Awareness podcast. I hope you're leaving more aware than when the episode started. To reach out, you can email me at appliedawareness.pod@gmail.com, or you can just check out my LinkedIn and search up Adam French in LinkedIn, and you can connect with me there. If you want to see more content from me, I post a lot of it. I post every day, guys, so hopefully there's a lot of awareness and positivity for you to get outside of the show, and that can be found on Twitter or Facebook or Medium. Just search up Applying Awareness Podcast and you'll be taken right to my page. And if you enjoyed the episode today and what I am doing, the biggest thing you can do to support me and the podcast is to rate and review it and write a little review on iTunes or wherever you're listening to the show. So I'll provide links in the show notes. If you could click on that and take 1.5 minutes out of your day, not even 2 minutes, to write a review, I would really, really appreciate you. I appreciate you now, but I would appreciate you even more, if that's possible, if you wrote a review. The next episode is going to be an entrepreneur hour with JP Taxman. So JP is he's a really cool creative guy. He's a user experience ninja and digital artist, photographer. He's the CEO and creator at Plucky Inc., which is an app development company. And he's a creative mind and a really motivated person and a serial entrepreneur. We're going to talk about his story and how he came in to be an entrepreneur, what his experience has been. And he also wants to talk about some of his struggles with mental health issues and depression as an entrepreneur, because that's a side of entrepreneurship that people don't really talk about and they're scared to talk about. But JP told me that that's something he's really willing to talk about, and I commend him for that. And I think you guys will be able to learn a lot from his experience, because he's had a lot of it. He's doing some fantastic stuff. I see him on Facebook doing rejection therapy. So JP has a lot of interesting aspects to his personality, and I'm really excited to really talk to him more in depth and get to know him. And y'all should be too. So I will see you next time.